started. Did I get it? Kind of figuring out as I go. Yep. No. Let's just open FL Studio. I'll have that open. That's probably the easiest way of doing this. I don't want to casual drop. Hi, why are you not letting me pick that? Okay. Hold on. Boop. And then... Boop. There we go. I don't know who's going to be here, so I never know who shows up to these streams. How are you doing, Sinclair? I got the stream going. I'm going to share the link with you real quick. I'm kind of figuring this out as I go, because this is probably the third stream I've done. I just thought it'd be a cool kind of idea. So, yeah. I cannot hear you at all. I don't know if you're planning on talking or anything like that, but I do not hear any audio, just so you know. I know that it can be a little weird sometimes, so here is, I'm going to start sharing the link around. I'm going to DM you the link real quick. Kind of figuring this all out as we go. Let me make sure my mic's not terrible either, because my mic can be horrible sometimes. Okay, cool. No? We good? Okay. I don't know if anyone's here yet, so I'm just kind of getting this done. No, you're not. Shit. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I gotta figure this out. Alright, can you hear me now? No? Streaming YouTube. Let me see if hold on, let me see if I can invite you there. There's always gonna be these things. Studio mode, no. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this working. To everyone joining the stream, we're kind of doing like a little hangout thing today. There might be a little slip-ups here and there, trying to figure out how this all works. So, how the hell do you get someone here? Okay. Settings, I'd like to share this. Yes, I would. How do I... Oh, okay, that's not what I wanted. Stop streaming, auto stop. That's not what I wanted you to do. Okay. That's definitely studio mode. Yep. Oh, crap. What'd I do? Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna try... This is the other way I'm gonna get this to work. Hold on. Nope. Go back. Try... There we go. Wait. Can you hear me now? Okay, cool. Okay, hold on. Now. Oh, I heard something. I can hear you, finally.
Yes, but this is on my phone.
Okay. I'm still
All right.
new to this. Does this work, or?
I mean, yeah, this'll work.
Things are going to be bound to go wrong today, so I'm kind of expecting it.
Fair enough.
Y-
If it gets us into actual voice communication, that's fine. I can hold the phone. I'm from Gen X.
All right. Yeah. Now the next thing I gotta fix is for some reason it's panning me all the way to the left. I don't understand why. It's like it's looking at my Threads account and making an assumption about me. That's a fun fact
Well,
for those who are on Threads.
mhm.
Oh, mono. Yeah, you mono it. There we go. You see, I don't work with a lot of streaming or like video making stuff because I don't do a lot of that on my computer, which is what I'm using. So
Right.
kind of yeah, I'm figuring it all out as I go. So how have you been? This is a little bit of an adventure as we figure this out.
Rough weekend, but I'm through it.
Okay, okay, yeah. I believe we talked about it a little bit, but everything's all good that with that though.
Not
If I can
really, but it's stable for the moment. So
okay, okay.
yeah,
Should I just take a random picture of something in my room and use that to announce the stream?
I guess.
Hey,
Don't.
you're the author here. I'm inviting you on. It's your say.
Yes, but I've never streamed before either. So but if you can find something green, go for it.
Green, green. I live in a green walled room. My room is a goblin. I wish I could escape it. You know, my room looks like pure vomit on the walls.
Oh, that color green. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
and
not one of
then
my
like if you
favorites.
were to walk in, I need to do some cleaning up. I've been out of the house like every day, so I have not had a
Hmm.
chance to catch up. So it looks like every like trans femme musician room. There's like some monster cans on the floor, some business cards that I've already used up and done what I need to do. So it's really funny. Like it looks like a fucking slob mess in here. I've accepted it, right now at least.
Fair enough. We all have to accept certain things in our lives.
I'll fix it when I'm not busy with a bunch of shit. I mean, I don't even know how I'm awake right now, to be honest. But fuck it, we ball.
Same. It's a little early for me, but
This is early for you.
I'm on Central Standard Time.
Oh
So
crap! What time is it for you?
it's only like 11, but I've been sleeping in since for like a month or two.
You
So
see, here's the issue. I'll stay up till 2 a.m. and I'll let myself try to sleep in, and then my body's like, "Hey, we're gonna get up at 6 o'clock because I hate you." And I'm then up at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm not functioning. Why did you do this? And then body's like, well, we can always get caffeine, and it just systemically feeds the problem. There's no in between here. There's no winning this. There's no anything.
I am familiar with that cycle. I called it my early 20s.
I refuse to say my age.
That's fine.
I'm not even 19. No, because so I have a running joke because I'll tell everyone what I've done up to this point and how much I've done, and they'll all be like, "Oh, you're a prodigy." Oh, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, "No, no, shut up. I've just literally all I've done is just put aside all the bullshit you told me was important and actually focus on something that was important."
What you've done is work frantically, recklessly,
Kind of,
without any of
yeah.
the without any of the fears that hold a lot of people back. That fear of failure that keeps people from getting started.
Here's the thing. Okay, it's a rule. It's even badly enough. It's how I handle therapy too. Um, dive head first. Here's the thing. For someone like me, I am an over worrier. But instead of letting myself like get absorbed in that, I'll be like, well, I'm gonna be really anxious when I do this. I'm gonna dive head first, and that's how I like got my first novel. I hope you understand what I'm talking about too. Because we're gonna go into a little interviewee thing. I'm very laid back with this stream. I'm not looking to, be like. I don't do anything to try to be overly professional. I try to just do it as raw and honest as I can. So that's kind of how we're gonna treat it today. That cool with you?
That I honestly was expecting nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Why? So like, especially with my brand, I don't know. Well, I kind of do know where you're going with what you're doing, but with what I do, like brand wise, I hate saying it, but I try to keep it very raw and human. I don't really like going too all out if I have to. So, all right, for those who are new to the stream, you wanna. I don't think we have anyone as of right now. You want to tell everyone what you're about, what you do?
My name is Sinclair Sting, and I am the Goblin Smut Guy. Well, technically a Goblin Smut Guy. If you go to the right places on Reddit, you'll find some other ones. But I'm a novelist who has whose brand is essentially that I write Goblin Girl smut. Yep,
How many of these things have you written?
just the one so far.
Just
I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that they're actually into making sure that they're good. I've only started this last year. Um, Last August, I had a manic episode, and 6 weeks later, I had my rough draft. And after that, I did all the research and how one goes about getting something self-published because there was no self-respecting publishing house that would touch something called Goblin Stepsister Obsession, and there was no way I was budging on the title. So
I mean,
I,
it definitely caught my eye. I remember when I saw it, and I was like, I forgot what exactly I asked, but I was like, write what you want, but why?
fair enough.
Like, I just wanted to
Um,
know why.
Honestly, it had initially it's like they say about a lot of world builders, you start with your specific kink and then you drop and then you build out from there. And I actually had a dream that touched off the manic episode, and the dream involved sexy goblin schoolgirls. And after that, I found myself compelled to build out a world in which sexy goblin schoolgirls could exist, and they wound up being like, what's the term, metaphors for oppressed and vilified minorities. So I wound up with like 500 years of history and a complex politics and a lot of racial identity stuff. And the main character is an exploration of like privileged allyship, because he is a human passing guy who gets all the privileges of being a human passing guy, but he loves these people who are essentially despised and loathed by most of the population to one degree or another. It's down to like subtle loathing. It's not, they can walk down the street without getting harassed as long as he's with them. It's that
this
degree of
is
racism.
this is wild. I'm just like sitting back here, like that is a hell of a concept. Okay. While you're talking, I'm glancing because I have my mini books with me that I just announced, and I'm just thinking about how wildly different that is from what I write. That is insane.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, it's we are not the same. I have yet to meet anybody else who has quite the same process as me, who has the same like the who approaches it the same way that I have. No, every writer has a different story.
There is a
Um,
lot of writers who write smut with like underlying themes of that, or like underlying
yeah,
themes that are bigger. So that's like I know you can find that, but how wild you're going with this. I mean, I've seen the art that you've had. Oh my god, I'm gonna mess up his name. Obnoxious Oni making. It's
outrageous.
outrageous. It's absolutely insane. That's why like I keep in mind on threads. I see a lot of the indie author community. Like I
Hmm.
see a lot of romantasy, a lot of smut. I joke
Yep,
that once a day I have to see werewolf smut, or I'm not on the indie author side. And I don't read these novels. I'm not a smut reader, you know. I
fair enough.
prefer Tinder for that, you know. But I don't I don't read smut. So for me to like sit back and hear a concept that's so fucking out there. I mean, I think I explained it to you when I basically came into your DMs. It was like, I'm making you a soundtrack. You cannot tell me no.
Yeah, and I was like, what's in it for you, dude?
So here's the thing. I think a lot of people get it confused. It's something I explain to people when I do events, or the fact that I just came off 2 tours last month. Like, yeah, maybe they weren't big financial, but if you meet more people, if you do these things, if you get the name out there, that is still, I would actually say that's worth more. You know? Like, money comes and goes, but a reputation name does not. So, like, I think yesterday I gave out 2 books for free. I think the first one, not yesterday, for second year anniversary, I gave out a book for free. I gave out a poem for a sorry soul for free. You know, and these are like the 2 books I gave were pretty expensive books to even buy, but I don't care about the money as much, because at the end of the day, as I tell people, legacy and your name is the only thing you carry after the grave. So if I'm gonna be on this earth, I'd rather, have a name like Luigi Mannioni than be Elon Musk's clone. I mean, here's the thing: if you follow me politically, like I do say what I believe. Like I tell people I'm a populist. But if you look a little deeper, you can kind of see what people I align with. Like I don't really hide it. I just don't explicitly tell it. I tell
Well,
people.
you're trans femme. You kind of got it's like your eggs are in one particular basket, right?
Well, if I had eggs, they'd be in one particular basket. I haven't gone that far yet, but
Yeah.
but so I don't want to be the interviewer that asks this, but I think I read something about your wife, and I'm just curious because usually it's a lot of women I see writing smut. Being a man writing this kind of concept, what is your wife thinking of this? How does your wife feel on this? I'm just curious.
Honestly, she's just thrilled that I'm doing the thing because she's been after me to write things for years, to like write for years, and actually try and get it published. And she is my alpha reader. I read through the stories for her, and as I'm writing them, and she gives me her honest reactions. And so I've made some serious adjustments because she's been like, I don't think that worked. That was crap wording. You need to work on that part. That's what she does. What an alpha reader does, and she enjoys it. She enjoys the fact that we're connecting, and she thinks I'm really funny, and she thinks the sex scenes are sexy. So we're all good.
You know what? Fair. Yeah. So I'm gonna take it you're the indie author that does like a bunch of drafts and all of that.
I am the indie author that does a bunch of drafts and all that.
Yeah, so I have a very stripped back sense of creativity where usually it's the first draft I will put out. I actually, and this I've gotten made fun of for this. I don't edit my work that much anymore, and the reason
Okay.
why is actually because it's an anti-AI thing. AI is really polished. Like when you think AI, it's almost non-human. So me not
Yep.
editing my work is basically saying "fuck you," you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
No, I get it.
and I do that a lot with my work too. With like, I tell people all the time, and you might feel me on this. I hate the industry, but I love the authors. We're forced to go like trope, you know, and sell our like a product, sell our stuff like a product. I refuse to do that. I
Okay.
refuse to do that. So when I go into a concept, like again, greatest example because it's right in front of me, the coldest star, Holcher. I mean, there's the opening fucking line, if I can, I'll read it to you real quick, is, I had never thought of myself as weird until I realized I had dacrophilia. It turns out that's not a good thing to say in the office, but I'm the boss, so I suppose it doesn't apply to me in any slightest way. Which, if you
Necrophilia?
know what dacrophilia is a really just fucked up thing to start a novel with. But
No, I don't. I'm actually not familiar with dacrophilia.
so I had to particularly look up, and I had to look up what the actual philia term was for it. But basically, he's telling you he has a sexual fetish of making people cry.
Okay. All right.
That is
Oh,
so. Keep in mind, this isn't a smut. He just tells you that in the beginning.
right. Yes. See, the RPP he gets off on literally causing human suffering. Okay.
Yes, I mean he's a
So,
trillionaire. So like a good example. I don't know how if other writers do this. So this is a good question I'll ask you. But when I write, especially flash fiction or even my books now, a lot of the beginning, like if there's no action, it's usually me setting up the character. So like I think the
right.
good portion of this book, he doesn't even tell you where he's at. He tells you all of his ideas and what he thinks, and he describes his whole class system. Because I feel like a lot of novels, and I've actually seen a lot of people talk about this too in critiques. They start off with this huge like action scene.
Yes.
That bores me actually. I have not. I am very. It's very rare I read a book. I've just started reading again, and it's all because I read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. That's why I made the album. So yeah, I need something that's really gonna hook me in. So I try to write something that if I was reading, I'd be like, "What the fuck?" and entering in. So that actually kind of tells you why I'm doing this for you, because that's kind of what your hook did with me. It's like, holy shit, this might not be my thing, but what the fuck, you know? So yeah. But what are your thoughts on that kind of stuff? Like, what do you think of the industry? There's a fun one. Let's see if you're willing to go as far as I do on that.
The industry is. I mean, it's a mess right now. I mean, you've heard of what Harlequin is doing. They're actually like they're taking their authors who they have under contract and they're just feeding their stuff into AI and making like short AI videos, and then they're like, we're so proud of this, and the authors are like, what the fuck. The overall, like the actual publishing industry, it's been struggling for years because essentially there are new top predators in town, new distractions that make it so that fewer and fewer people are actually reading. And so it's sort of turned into the same issue that Hollywood has, where if a book isn't a hit, that they really don't want to try and invest in it. And that's why it's so much easier to get like weird, fringy indie authors like us. Fortunately, it's far easier for us to get published and get a platform than it ever has been before. So there's more weird stuff out there, but you have to sift around and find it. And yeah, it's a real divided landscape because you still have those big lumbering giants that are basically churning out nothing but romance and romantasy and like man, whatever indie hits they can scrape up and talk somebody into a contract in. And then there's us out here hustling, trying to find some followers and make a big enough impression that people are actually willing to pay a couple of bucks for our hard work.
Honestly, and I will say, I've learned because again, I'm kind of I don't want to say this like in a rude way, but like I'm advantaged in what I do because like my books have soundtracks now, they have CDs. Like I have multiple forms of income. So
Yeah,
it's kind of, and I do all these art events, like second year anniversary. I literally was at an event with a fucking celebrity artist. So I've got all these
nice.
connections now where I'm kind of privileged. So one thing, I
Yeah.
don't know if I've done this to you yet, but a lot of my local author friends and local artists fucking hate me. I'm joking because I will connect them to different things. I'll be like, hey, I heard about this event. Like they'll get DMs of me trying giving them like the events I'm doing, and then I'm organizing my own events. So I'm very privileged in that sense where I can do that. And the other thing I figured out is that really there's no fucking math. Everyone told like my grandpa used to always tell me, "Oh, you need to know your target demographic." You know, but the other day I just had a fucking 85-year-old woman buy my um buy my book Face to Face with the Reaper. Okay, I never thought that'd be the target demographic, but I wake up the next morning and on my Facebook, because she had friended me, she's like, "This is an excellent novel," and I'm just sitting back and I'm like, I like not nothing rude. It's just like you don't think that's your target demographic, so I don't believe in the idea of target demographic. What I found is that you just really want to get foot traffic. Like it doesn't matter what that foot traffic is as long as it's not kids. It doesn't matter what that foot traffic is, as long as you're getting that. Like I could do great if I'm at a good event. I can make $200 on my books alone, so I don't do terribly.
Yeah, fair enough.
Online
That's
though,
that.
nobody wants to fucking buy anything. Like, dude, just fucking pay for it. Like,
That's yeah, it is a problem. It's so easy for people to just get to try and get shit for free. That's the standard on the
I
internet
don't
that
even have a.
you get it for your eyeballs.
If someone messaged me and was like, "Hey, I'll trade you," like I'm open to that. Like I am the least. Like I've said it before. Like I wish people did purchase. Like I'm struggling a little bit financially, but we all are. Like those mutual aid posts they do on Threads, they'll usually be like, "I don't really need anything. I have a house over my head. Am I struggling financially? Yes, we all are. But I've got my SSI, so I'm pretty okay right now. But if you wanted to get a link to my books or anything, I'd appreciate if you bought one. You know,
Hmm.
but it feels like if you're this is something I talked about in a rant too, and I want to hear your thoughts on this as an indie author. It feels like, especially as a transgender author, if I'm not screaming at you that I'm trans or that I'm an indie author, or like if I'm not screaming, like if I was to take the book that I've been talking about this whole time, like it's an elite millionaire trillionaire who's murder, like I feel like I have to scream at the audience. And at what point do you just like downgrade your work enough to do that, you know?
Yeah, it's there's a fine line because it's like you have to make it known that you are that person and that you are selling a product. You have you have these things that you've done and you want people to know about them. And if you don't occasionally yell about them, nobody will. But nobody wants to hang out with a guy who is always yelling about that. So you have to balance it
Yes.
between like I am a friendly, personable and interesting. You want to follow me because of my views and because I say funny things, and occasionally just be like, dude, I wrote a book. I wrote a bunch of books. Buy a book, and hope that somebody other than other broke indie authors hears you, because that's part
Even
of the real challenge. Is the other indie authors are eager to make friends. They'll happily follow you, but they don't have money either,
you know,
and they are and barely an audience.
my
But
one complaint, if I have to make one, I love my indie author friends. All right, I love
hmm
y'all, but like if
yeah,
you see a
same.
post of mine, okay, and you press like, press fucking repost. You can say a funny like it is not hard, dude. I do it for all of y'all, and it feels like I'm totally putting her under the bus, but I love her. She's amazing. In fact, there's a funny story I can tell after this. Daniela Wolf, I've kind of interacted with her a little bit. Love her novels. Is it my taste? No, but they're cool. We need queer representation. I'll repost one of her things, and then she'll just like that. And then when I post something, nobody will repost it. I'm like, you motherfuckers, I did that for you. You kidding me? Like I don't. I've been told I could just like DM it to you guys and be like, yeah, repost it, but I don't want to be that guy. Like I don't want to be that
No, no, you
guy.
don't.
But like, come on. So it really feels like in the industry now. I love Diana. I'm fucking up her name so
Daniela.
bad. Daniela, yeah, I love her stories. In fact, since I reposted one basically saying if you don't buy this, I'll cause mayhem. I now have a Utah political candidate fucking following me and liking my posts. Do you know how insane that is?
That's
How
pretty insane, especially for Utah.
Yes, I mean I've talked to the mayor of my city. I've talked on Common Council. There's footage. I've been on TV. I've been in the newspaper at this point. Like I could die now and I've done more shit than most people my age and it's surprising. Like I don't want to pull that card, but it's like holy shit, you know. But even then like I just wish as indie authors we just repost or like I feel bad for this cuz I don't do this as much as I should, but even like read the concept and tell your thoughts on it. Like there's a lot of indie authors who ask for arc requests and I feel terrible. Like I'm a part of Storyforge. I could get paid to do it. I just don't have time to read.
Hmm.
I have a UB professor who's my coach and they won't give me anything to read. Or they will give me like stuff to read. I can't have the time for it. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on all of that though? That was kind of a jumbled word mess.
Okay, as far as reposting, I mean, I get it. Likes are cheap. Reposts are, that's you actually putting your brand on that thing and putting it out there to make sure that, and putting it out there and throwing a little bit more support behind it. I agree that we should do it more often. I don't feel the same sense of like, like they're obligated to do it. I don't feel that, but it's sort of like that share button, that little fucking paper airplane thing. I don't even know what that's for, and I'm not sure I want to at this point. But I really appreciate it when they did it. I wish they'd do it more, but I get it. Not everyone wants to have Goblin Smut Guy content on their timeline, and that's fine if they're as long as they're following and liking and enjoy and occasionally potentially feeding the algorithm in my favor. I'm all right with it. Sometimes I support people whose brands don't necessarily mix well with mine.
I mean,
And
literally me standing here, sitting here with a fucking the book I just fucking put out. So yeah, no, I understand.
yeah, yeah. But on the I had another point. What was the last thing you said? Do you remember?
Hold
It's
on, I'm
gone.
computing. Hold on, hold on. I'm kind of a rambler when I talk to people, which makes really good conversation. But then I have to recall stuff because I mentioned reposting and all of that. I mentioned like indie authors. I'm trying to
Right.
remember. There's a political candidate and all of that. Oh, being 19 at my age and being like I could die, but like if I died, I'd still have achieved more than most people, which I don't want to be. Not most people, but most people my age. Like I just kind of joke like, yeah, I could die tomorrow and I'll still have a legacy. So it's kind of funny on that end. I think
You've
that's
been
one
a
of the things
for
that. What?
You're extremely busy for your age, yeah.
I mean, hey, it doesn't pay the bills, but fuck them. I don't want to.
uh,
Look,
I get that.
I'm at this point in my life where like I don't want to get too far into politics, but it probably will come up given the topic of your book. Um, if the government can be full of people who commit war crimes and they don't get arrested, I no longer feel obligated to follow the law. You know?
Fair enough.
Like you're telling me I'm a criminal for fucking stealing a thing of Narcan, which is a reference to a thread thing I said. while you bomb Iranian children. Like, no, no, sorry, no, I don't. No, fuck you. Actually, I really don't like you anymore. You know.
Well, I didn't like him to begin with, but I understand your point.
Well,
There's
obviously, but yeah. But anyways, so I actually want to talk about like two things you said. Obligation wise, that's not an. I don't feel it's an obligation. You know, when I mention stuff like reposting, like whenever I say my opinions or anything, I do talk pretty strongly. You know, I've always
hmm
believed don't do something unless you're willing to die for it. Don't say it unless you're willing to die for it. You know, like I miss that kind of dedication, and that's how I treat it. I very much punk, but I don't do punk, which is weird.
That
So
is weird.
I don't expect indie authors to do it. Like I don't feel they're obligated to, but it is kind of like sitting back, like, hey, I do this for you. Like it's one of the biggest annoyances because I hear a lot of people within my life. I've since cut a lot of these people off actually because I take a very strong stance on this. But people who are like, well, it's just not my thing. Okay, it might not be your thing, but you can still press repost. It's a button. It doesn't cost you anything. You can like no. I've had entire. You know what? Actually, I released the ebook. I could casually just say this now. I've had entire fucking family members who will stand there and be like, "Oh, well, I don't support what you publish." Keep in mind, I was like 18 when they're telling me like that. They're like, "That's not my thing, but I'm still proud of you." And it's like, okay, it might not be your thing, you know, but I am your family member. We are blood, you know. So
Yep.
all you gotta do is press it. Tell someone, hey, it's not my thing, but you might like it. Like it's the selfish desire of people really comes out when you decide to do something achievable. And I mean this in any
hmm
sense. When you get a job, when you get an e-bike, like you really see what people really are. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That especially when it's like when it's a creative product. That's when it's like people will just be like, "That's great," and that's it. I've often heard it said that you will get more positive feedback and reinforcement from like strangers on the internet than you will from your own family
Yes,
a
yes,
lot
it
of
is
the
very
time.
much true. But I see the thing is, and most people I feel should take after this, but we kind of, for lack of a better two sentences about to say, we kind of, I feel like as a society or as like creatives, we kind of like bend over and let them fuck us over. It's like, oh, you said that's great, but you don't want to support me in another other way. That's cool. Keep fucking me. That's cool. You know, for lack of a better way of saying it. And the other line I'm gonna say is we kind of worship convenience and comfortability. I do feel like we need to take stronger stances on things. So like, I've been conducting a social experiment actually. I could publicly say this because I know they won't be looking at this. There's two family members that were always posting about how they were in the last one third of their lifespan. You know, so I said something along the lines of, no, actually, I was checking up on like weekly or daily, and then eventually they were like, "Well, it's not like I'm gonna die tomorrow." Keep in mind they're making all these posts about how they're in the last span of their life, you know. So I
Right,
haven't
right.
reached out to them in 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
I'm seeing if they're gonna reach out to me.
Yeah, just see if they're gonna return the favor because
I
it's
I had
been
a second
it's
year anniversary. I had so much happen. I have the first year anniversary of my book coming up. I've got so much cool shit going on. I want to see if they're gonna reach to me.
all right. Fair
I'm
enough.
I'm the type where I don't believe we should. And I want to hear your thoughts on this as a writer too, especially with what you write. I'm not the type that like wants to sit by passively. Like stand on your word, you know. I will full on cut someone off if there's certain things that they're gonna do. So like if you're gonna stand there, one of my greatest examples is certain things that people will disagree with me on. So like if I'm trans rights being one, you know,
hmm
like a lot of that shit, I don't believe in agree to disagree on that. Or when you're gonna stand there and be like I'm your friend and then never support hobbies, like dude, I do the same thing for you. Yeah, no. So I
Right.
stand very
Well,
strong on that. I am kind of a petty asshole with that. Like I will full on I will walk into the room and if your friends are sitting by and if you wronged me, I won't even swear at you. I'll be like, "Hey, good example. I did this the other day. Hey, do you know what's going on today?" Like I will full on be petty if I need to. Just to prove a point. But what do you think on that being creative? People supporting you. Like what's the stance you take? Are you like the Iron Fist where you'll be like, "Hey, fucker, you said you support me."
no, no, I'm not. I'm the velvet glove, and where I'm not like the shadow on the wall because my most of my family has no idea that Sinclair Sting exists, and I prefer it that way.
Given what you
So
write about, that's understandable. I can, yeah. Given that, yeah.
maybe once my parents are dead, but that hasn't happened yet.
Someone's
So
watching.
yeah, I put no pressure on anybody to support my work. It's got to be it's like got to be entirely voluntary. I prefer it when it happens, and honestly, I have understood some of that disappointment, mostly from like my some beta and alpha readers that were like, "Yeah, I'll definitely read it," and then like either crickets or like, my God, like months later, I gotten like 4 points of data. Um, and then a stranger on the internet that I met on friggin' Tumblr gives me a 12-page dissertation on like every on the strengths and weaknesses of my work. So that was it's just you never yeah, the people in your life, they don't understand what creative work is. Not really. They can't, or they're just most of them are just regular people with regular jobs that they do and then that they do and then they're done. And yeah, they don't understand the struggles and they don't feel the obligation, and I can't hold that against them because I was them and I have been them in the past, and it's like it's not my job to force their third eye open on this shit. But yeah, I understand. I respect your passion and your like and holding people accountable, because if they've said yes, I love that you're doing this and I will support you in doing this, then like you could do the more than the fucking they could do the fucking minimum in supporting you of that and being like just posting on their socials that you that this thing that you're doing is happening. But yeah, I don't have those people in my life, so it's not a one-to-one.
Yeah, true. I don't know too because I don't know. It's all interesting too. I joke that I'm a bit of a diva with my work too, which is probably coming out a bit. Like, I try to be respectful. I really do. But there are certain like I'm not gonna lie. There's so many people who have asked to collab, and I'll have to kind of turn them down because they'll be like, I understand you like this concept, but if I'm gonna collab with you, you need to have your own autonomy, and therefore I can't bring you on this concept because if I do, it's not really a collab. It's more like I'm making you march to my rhythm, and I don't want to do that to you.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah. I've yeah. I have had not a lot of people offer and ask to collaborate with me, but then again, nobody knows I'm doing this. So
You know, you know what we should do? I don't like this author, but we should take like all the smut writers, like all the ones I know, all the romance guys. We should get us all to start pinging like Colleen Ballinger or whatever the hell her name is, the one that wrote that shitty novel It Ends With Us, and just keep pinging her, be like, "Hey, support your fellows, support your romance writers." I fully believe, okay, like I know people use this in the wrong sense, but if we want to get change done, I fully believe in harassing. All right, like there is multiple posts on my threads of which I think I've pinged like Democrats and I've been like, hey guys, like or pinged different like industries and be like, hey guys, like I fully believe motherfucker, if you're public, okay, I'm pinging you. Understand. I will harass you if you're fucking up.
that's admirable. Yeah, I'm too worried about getting banned. It takes so long. It takes so long to build up anything resembling a brand and a following that like it's just getting zucked for for annoying somebody more important than me is such a fucking setback that I don't want to risk it. But I completely understand, and I back that play. I admire your moral courage.
I suppose it's moral courage. I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy myself a good justified conflict. But but no, I'm trying to get banned off TikTok. Like it's I'm trying to speed run. So I'll go on there. I don't use TikTok anymore. Fucking hate that platform. No, I hate short
Same.
form content and TikTok made it so much worse. Hate it
It did.
all. No, it's so terrible. I hate short form. I'm sorry, dude. I don't want to watch a 60-second video of you talking about a longer video. I don't want to watch some stupid meme compilation. No. No, if you're going to give me short form, give me something that's worth my 60 seconds. Or I'm just going to fucking watch Whiplash and actually enjoy something that's a work of art. So, again, diva side coming out there. I am trying to I'm speed running getting banned. So every time I'm angry, if it has nothing to do with TikTok, it doesn't matter. I'll go on TikTok and I'll find something to direct that anger towards. So I think last time I insulted the entire TikTok community and I said, "You guys are all brain dead fucking losers, and this platform is the reason why content has died." I'm not nice on there, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be on that platform. It all stemmed because they have my old phone number. It doesn't even fucking exist. The phone was put in the shredder. I'm not joking. Like, it doesn't exist, and they won't let me change the phone number. So I was like, if you're not going to let me change the phone number, I am going to create a toxic page until you cannot ignore me. That's dedication.
That's a whole hobby in and of itself. I'd ask how you have time for this, but we discussed your sleep schedule earlier. That explains where
I
that,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
so I tell people I survive comfortably off. Like, I'm not living, but I can afford my food. I can afford things. I go to events. I'm out and about. I have a roof over my head. I can sleep. So that's why I say, like, I'm not in terrible need. Am I great?
Mm-hmm.
No. I live in a trailer with 9 cats. Against my will. I still live with my parents. I have a dog, and I'm stepping in cat shit and piss here and there. But I can just wash my clothes. Like, yeah, it sucks. I don't really want to be stepping in that. I don't think anyone does. But I can
No.
sleep, I
Yeah,
have food.
yeah.
So there's people who use fentanyl as a full-time career, for lack of a better way of putting it. So I think that I'm in a better position than some people, which is why I'm honestly out in the community and talking to people. And I actually refuse to work for big business. I quit my job back in January. I refuse to work for big business.
Now that's a bold play.
Sorry, Here's the thing, and I think if you read my replies, you can kind of figure out a little bit. But one thing I tell people, I don't play in losses. I don't. There's either a small win or a huge win, or I don't play at all. So a good example of this policy is that I tell people I do not gamble unless it is not my money. Like, if it's someone else's money, then I'll gamble.
Fair enough.
So that's a good example
yeah.
of this. But even, like, people have told me, well, aren't you worried about getting homeless? And if you've read my recent posts, because I've been getting a lot of mental health posts, and I'll reply to them, I'm not sticking around long enough to suffer that. Sorry. So no, I'm very much, I'm living the life where, like, I can't really lose at this point. Like, I got a roof over my head. I don't plan on going anywhere soon, but I can't exactly lose at this point either way. So it's like, okay.
I feel like that got real dark there, but
you're talking
fair
to
enough.
someone who loves philosophy, loves horror. So that's where it's gonna go.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
You've seen, I sent you the new book, and I know that people see my posts. You gotta know what I stand for at this point, okay? Like, there's honestly, I am the darkest light and the lightest dark in both. Like, that is my spotlight on Lulu that I wrote, and I have never disagreed with that sentiment. Okay, I am the lightest dark and the darkest light. Like, I can provide both for you. But that's kind of my point. So, like, my time is fully spent working on my music, working on my books, because I can survive comfortably, and even if I can't, it's still not a loss for me. Either way, I'm winning. Either way, I move forward. Because, again, with everything I've done, being in the community, I have this ideology called martyrdom, which is kind of the idea of just moving forward. With everything I've been through with my life, in fact, actually, 41 minutes ago, there was a short film released talking about some of those events that were pretty fucked up. I'm done with that whole idea of, let's try to get better in a system that's only going to prescribe. So at this point, I'm focusing fully on my career, fully on my goals, and if I need something, I will go out into the community. I will find it myself. I will do it myself, because I very much don't believe in a system. I don't believe in our systems, and I've seen it firsthand that it doesn't work for me, for other people. So that's kind of why I'm at where I'm at. So martyrdom is basically the idea of just live and move forward, but don't be scared of death. And that understand that when your life, if you're chasing something like I am, that's legacy or a name, it's not going to, you're not going to get that until after death. So don't fear death. Move forward, but don't purposely commit it.
Right. Find something worth dying for. Don't actively seek to die for it, but
exactly.
But if you trip on the road and split your head open, you've at least traveled the road.
Yes. Which kind of goes back into what I was talking about with the homeless thing. So, like, at that point, quality of life is terrible. I've done what I've done. Okay. So there's no losing on either side. And I don't think I think a lot of people don't realize that. We kind of look at these things with a little bit of fear, and I think
Yes.
we've got to start realizing that there's nothing left to lose but your chains. You know, the crow, a good buddy of mine, Carly Boy. You know, you've got nothing left to lose here, so might as well just have fun in life. Which is insane when I explain it to people, because then they're like, "Oh, what about money? What about this?" And they've completely missed my point here.
I see where you're coming from. It reads as a very young person's philosophy. I have a bunch of people I got to take care of, so burning myself out doesn't appeal the way that it would have went back in my early 20s. But I get it.
Burning. So I want to talk about that too, because a lot of people talk about burnout. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I don't really burn out. That's the thing. So my creativity is always sprouting. So like
Hmm.
later after this, I want to try to write my book. Am I a little burnt out with what I've done today and yesterday and the day before? Or no, today and yesterday? Yeah. I just fucking graphic designed 4 CDs and vinyls, and I have to record another audiobook. I'm not doing that today. I'm done. I don't want to do that. So I might do music or something. But with all these facets of creativity, I don't get burnt out creatively. I get burnt out
Okay.
with one thing. So like if I'm writing for a while, then I'm like, okay, I can't write anymore. I can't do this. So let's do some art.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Good. Yeah. That's a good technique. Yeah.
that's the thing that people don't understand. If I push myself very hard, I work at a very fast pace because I've gotten to that pace. I didn't
Hmm.
start out at that pace. I just happen to know how to do what I do, and that's what's great about it. So like later in this, when we start talking about the soundtrack, I'm just kind of treating this as a conversation right now. Even then, with how I work, you know, I'm very fast because I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. I've got things memorized. I know what I like for different things, and that also allows me to experiment and kind of add these different tools to my arsenal. You know. So,
Yeah.
what are your
Absolutely.
thoughts on burnout? How do you avoid burnout?
Oh, I actually have like the best piece of writing advice I've apparently ever written is just when you can write, write. When you can't write, edit. When you can't edit, outline. When you can't outline, brainstorm. When you can't brainstorm, just rest. Just there's a lot of different ways to approach writing. There are a lot of different parts to writing, and what you've said basically mirrors that. If you're burned out on one task, move to a different task. Just assume that you're always moving forward. Don't beat yourself up for not constantly working on the thing, because then you're just going to get down on yourself. You're going to hate yourself for not doing the thing, and you're never going to get it done because self-loathing is poison. And so yeah, when I avoid burnout in that sense by just when I write until I can't write, and once the writing is exhausted, it's like I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna edit this thing. I'm gonna just look through and find the spots that I know I needed to fix, and I'm gonna fix them, and I'm gonna look and find the areas where I use the wrong word or I put the fucking wrong punctuation, because that's part of the work too. At least for me, you have your own style,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's but yeah, it's similar to what you said. You can't just keep doing the same thing forever because the human brain isn't built that way, and trying to do that it'll burn you out. It'll let that you'll lose the joy of it. You'll lose the desire to do it, and eventually you won't be able to do it. So just phase down into different forms of rest, different forms of activity, and that way the battery stays relatively charged. You don't empty the well, and you don't start scraping the bottom, and you don't damage yourself. Um, I have thoughts on like the grander scale of burnout, but that's more of a societal thing where we are expected to be highly productive for a great deal of our time, and if we're not, then if we're not, then our value is reduced. So if we don't do it, then we're that. So yeah, with
You,
a
you
lot of
know,
people are burning out just from effort and not even creative effort, just trying to get through the fucking week. But
I understand that. The thing is that the only way that system would work is if you had, and it still would be fucked up, and there'd be moral questions of it. But if we're gonna play devil's advocate, the only way that system would work is like what I said. You have to be working up to that pace. You can't just like put them in middle school Because like, and I can't be the only one that noticed this because I've just graduated in 2025. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in middle school they just suddenly hike it, and then high school just continues that same pace.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no drifting into it. What I've been doing, I mean, I wrote my first manuscript when I was 12. That was Earth's New Rule. I don't have that book anymore. I am so glad I don't know where to find it. So, like, genuinely, it's probably one of the shittiest things I've ever wrote. In my room, there's a box with my first, like, real serious manuscript called The Bat and the Child, a urban
Mm-hmm.
fantasy kind of weird thing that I wrote, which I still have
Okay.
in here. So, like, for me, I've been moving all my life, and I kind of need the movement. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, you need to slow down, but for someone like me, I have to move forward. You know, I've got that fun
That
kind of
tracks.
ADHD. That tracks, like, yeah, showing you all the artwork I did and not even what it was for. So, yeah, I have to be constantly moving forward in that sense. But I think where people are lost is that I think a lot of times we kind of catastrophize it. I see with a lot of like young writers or even people my age. They're like, "Oh, I want to be published." And it's like, "Here's the thing. Okay, yes, I work at a very fast pace. I know what I want. I know how to do it. I move forward. I've lived basically 80 years in 19 years, weirdly. Kind of feels like that sometimes. Like, when I talk to people what I've done in a week, like, there's a joke. People will ask me, some good friends of mine that I used to be closer to would ask me to make a list of what I've done. And this list would span like 3 pages within a week. So it's just because that's what I'm used to. That's the pace I'm used to. But I will
Mm-hmm.
admit there's also a cost to that. I want to warn people of don't forget to socialize, because I forgot that for the longest time. So now I'm entering, like, the dating scene and trying to make friends, and it's like, how do you talk to people without talking about your interests but also not rant about it because it's still your special interest? So it's all this weird little when this little fucked up spear trying to figure everything out. Like goblins,
Yes, yes, like that.
like
But yeah, I understand. There's but it is easy to basically just disappear up your own ass. It's never been easier, frankly, than to like just create your own little echo chamber and just spend all your time in it. And reconnecting with human beings afterward never gets easier. You have to. It takes practice. It's just you just can't let yourself sink too deep into it. Otherwise, when you come out, it's going to be the world is going to be alien, and everyone's going to look at you like you're even stranger than you were before. And so I do understand that particular struggle right there. I don't have the kind of I don't got your super productive ADHD. I got what they used to call ADLD. So it's I move at a snail's pace compared to you, and that's fine. But I definitely know what it means to have gotten super deep into something that I can't talk to anyone about. So
I I can. It's weird because I will in the city, near the city where I live. Like, I live near the city, but not in it. But it's no secret if you look at my page, Lockport, New York. I'll just be biking around, and they'll be like, I'll just talk to random strangers, and as we all think too, because I think people need to realize this isn't true. We all think of everyone as stupid, but I have heard some of the best philosophical debates, or like some of the best things from strangers. So it's really strange. Like, our neighbor,
hmm
I've been kind of saying this a lot, but I've been telling people, like, you are the enemy at this point. You are your own enemy. Your neighbor bleeds the same as you. So
hmm
I'm bringing that up because when we talk about burnout and all of that, I think we also expect like this huge judgment from people, where you have someone like me where I just don't give a fuck. Here's the thing. If you're gonna sit there and you're gonna tell me, and you're not a published author, you haven't read my work, and you're gonna tell me that's dark, maybe it's dark, but why should I care? You're some passing face on the internet, you know. And I don't mean this
Yep.
narcissistically, but also know your own worth. Like, I've published several novels. You're sitting there telling me this is too dark or this is too horrifying, while you're just sitting there like jerking yourself off at McDonald's. So that's my point. So, like, even when we approach a topic like yours with like the goblin, this huge goblin smut, societal themes and all of that, um, who the fuck has any right to say? Like, I love the concept, but even if I was to approach it, they'd be like, oh, this is a disgusting concept. Which I would never do. I don't do that to any writers. Are there concepts I'll read on threads of which I think are kind of boring? Yes. Will I still support them? Yes, because that is your concept, and I'm proud of you for at least having the passion to go through with it. But
Mm-hmm.
with even your concept, people might sit there. I could be here and be like, "Oh, well, that's weird. That's very strange." But I don't fucking write smut.
Yeah.
I've never written a sex scene in any of my books yet. So who am
Yet.
I here to judge you? I'm not gonna talk too much on this, but there's a book. It's infamous if you've been on my page. It's the summer book, Flesh Prison. Um, so I am debating putting a sex scene in there. Because you have to keep in mind my work, which is what makes the books and the flash fiction kind of hard to write at times, is very purpose driven. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not degrading smut on this, but smut is very much like a jerk off manual. Like this is kind of entertainment pleasure, but what I write, with horror isn't just entertainment to me. It's how do I portray a darker side of humanity in a way that's going to make you uncomfortable and disturbed, or you walk away wanting to change that, but also kind of traumatized,
Yep.
Genuinely, I write my work to traumatize my readers. I'm sorry, if
Okay.
you read A Poem for a Sorry Soul, you read the new book and you are not uncomfortable. Like, there are people who be like, oh, that concept makes me uncomfortable. I'll look them dead in the eyes and be like, good. It should. Sorry, murder should not make... If I was to cover, sexual assault, I haven't done that yet. I've had some concepts. I just don't think they're strong enough to move with that. If I was to cover
Fair
a
enough.
subject like that, I do need to make you uncomfortable because you shouldn't be comfortable with that.
No, you should not. That's
No.
yeah.
Horror isn't
There
meant to
should be a visceral gut reaction there.
Yeah, if you're reading something from like Flesh Prison, which is one of my most fucked up novels, there's a paragraph that had me gagging for 20 minutes. Not even joking, before work. Like, if you do not feel uncomfortable reading my work at times, I'm genuinely more concerned about you than I am for myself.
Fair enough.
Genuinely. Like, I think there's so many people who are like, that's kind of disturbing, don't you think? I'm like, yeah, that's the fucking point. That's the fucking point.
Yes, well, that's that you're writing transgressive fiction. So
Literally, like I am. So going back to the whole thing with sex with my work, I've been told by multiple people. There's a British friend. I haven't talked to them in a second. I was a little irritated with them, so I was giving my time to sift and kind of brood on my feelings, so I could come back with a riser mind on that one, as the DBT freaks would say. But but I with even her, I made this joke that I was gonna write a smut of a transgender serial killer and this bi-curious kind of homophobic man, and I wrote this one. It was just dialogue, and they've been bullying me to write the smut ever since then. Like I'm not gonna lie, I've been entertaining the concept here and there out of boredom, but I have to have purpose. I can't just write.
how do you have time to be bored?
Um, there is time sometimes. Especially when I think when I'm driving around too.
All right. Fair enough.
So, as an ADHD or an autismer yourself, I'm going to ask you after this what your feeling is on this. But I tell people I live in a world without enough. It doesn't have enough stimulation for me.
Okay, I can see that.
I can't watch shows anymore. I can't watch movies. They just don't interest me. If it doesn't hook me in the first 10 minutes, I can't watch it. My YouTube is mostly like I listen extensively to music. I am a musicaholic. I might have to go to rehab. I don't read books either. Like there's authors, like I do here and there. Like I got Blood Meridian somewhere in this room by Cormac McCarthy, and I'm currently reading The Prince by Nicholas Machiavelli. So
okay,
it's really weird for me on that because I live in a world without enough stimulation. So with me creating, it kind of gives me the stimulation I need because now I have to delve into the psychology of the character, and especially with how purposeful I try to write and how fancy my writing has gotten now. I don't know if you've seen any of the paragraphs I've shared, but going for like a brutalist approach, it's called. It definitely gives me enough stimulation where I can walk away actually feeling a little bit tired, which is kind of good sometimes. But I'm going to ask you that, I'm going to ask you a triple-headed question. You ready?
Okay.
With your ADHD or neurodivergency, do you feel you live in a world with too much or too little stimulation? What is your thought on neurodivergency and its representations? I'm trying to remember the third one because there's a really good one on the third one. I was going to hit you. No, we'll start with those two. I'll remember it.
Okay. It's a big world. some parts of it are way too low. My way too low on stimulation. Some parts of it are too big, are too stimulating. They're too fucking busy for me. Um, and some parts of it are utterly toxic stimulation, the kind of stimulation that it just exists to stimulate, like TikTok. And the and some parts of it are basically just right. Some activities are provide precisely the kind of input output balance that my busy brain needs, and it varies, man. Some I'm sorry, man,
You're good. You're
no,
good.
no,
So,
gender free man. But yeah,
so
it varies.
personally, with the whole man and guy thing, do I agree that we need to come up with a more gender neutral term? Yeah. Does it bother me? Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. It's weird. I enter those conversations are weird too. But anyways, continue.
Okay. So yeah, it's a big world. I'm not going to say that the entire world is too boring for me or the entire world is too stimulating for me because there are just so many different places in it and so many different experiences in it that I can't narrow it down that way. But like when I'm role playing, when I'm writing, that's just about right. When I'm watching a good movie, that's great. Um, and when I'm reading a good book, I'm not even in the fucking room anymore. When I'm reading a bad book, it's like, wow, I'm very much present and I'm in torture and I'm in agony. When I'm watching a bad TV show, why am I doing this? I'm done. But it's yeah, there are places where it's like the world doesn't give me enough. There are places the world is clearly intending to give me way too fucking much too quickly and
New
just
York City.
turn my brain to slop. And yeah, and as far as representation, it feels like we're getting more of it, but that's just because we're speaking up more. For when I was growing up, we were just the weird kids. Now we're neurodivergents. Now we're odd ADHD. I think I fucked that one up, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And now we have names. Now we have groups. Now we can connect with one another, and we are up, and there are, and we're not ashamed to just to be the weirdness that we are, and in a way that we certainly were back in the 80s. So it's a different world, and I think it's a little friendlier for us, at least broadly. So there are still a lot of people out there who just refuse to understand the first thing about us because they refuse to understand the first thing about anyone who's different. But there's much more community and support than there ever was before. So but as far as like mainline representation, you see the same stereotypes. You see the awkward genius. You see the guy who's just a little odd but extremely good at his job. You see the idiot savant in various forms. And there's so much more to us than just the spaz that's really good at solving crimes. But you know, trope's gonna trope.
I do think there's not enough conversation because this one's very interesting to me. So if you keep up with my threads, especially like I always mention threads because that's the one I interact with people on the most. Because I
Hmm.
tell people threads is where I can both have a political discussion and debate with someone who's far out of their depth, and I can out debate them. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying that because I always want to be right. I actually tell people I'd rather you prove me wrong. So I have to walk
Hmm.
away thinking. But I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of an ego trip sometimes when I walk into those political debates, and I'm like, and I already know by the first time they've answered, I already got them. I just have to play it out. Not gonna lie, it's a bit of an ego trip here and there, but there's not enough talk around cluster B, which is also neurodivergent. So this is your NPD, your ASPD. These big scary guys. These big scary sociopaths and all that. There's not enough talk on that where it comes to like neurodivergency and the crossover of autism and maybe ASPD. Because I learned something really cool recently about that. So like my special interest as someone with ADHD is psychology. So another thing to note about that is that I lump in politics and philosophy, and religion's lumped in with philosophy. So psychology kind of encompasses all of that for me. So understanding how people think is very fucking fascinating to me and terrifying. But cluster B is also traumagenic. So it's really interesting because I don't know how much work's been done on the crossover of cluster B and versus personality disorders and neurodivergency, because I think that there is a really strong connection that we don't talk about. And that's not me saying that either one's bad. I don't believe that coherently. I believe more like enablement, which is a separate conversation. But I would like to see more representation of that. Like, what about the autistic, the autistic woman who has been through enough shit that she's kind of ASPD, but she's still deserving of love, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's I agree with you. It'd be nice to see more specificity in that sort of thing. Most of the time when people are writing characters, they tend to be pretty generic, and it's I get it. Not everybody who's writing a book is actually a psychology nerd. Um,
Please be one.
one of my what's that?
Please be one. I tell all my
Well, what
friends when they get into writing, I tell them, read psychology, please.
read psychology, read sociology,
Please,
read
no. Do you
yeah,
actually? It helped me
read
so much as a
anthropology.
writer. It helps so much as a writer. I don't think
It
people
does.
understand. Like, yeah. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
It's fine. One of my goblins has DID, so
Oh,
um, just just throwing that out there. CPTSD and DID. So that's
ooh.
undiagnosed, but
You just
it's
casually
fine.
threw that in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were discussing the acronyms,
No, I mean how
and
casually you just casually made a character with DID in a smut that's a goblin.
she's been through a lot.
No, understandably. So, like with a
Yeah.
character like that, I'm totally gonna rant about this for the next like 30 minutes. A character like that, how are you approaching the trauma side of that? How do you like? What is? I guess maybe this is fucked up, but I guess it's fictional, so I can ask. What's the trauma of this character? What led them to having DID? Like, how are you approaching that subject?
Mild spoilers. She had a very traumatic. She had a fairly traumatic upbringing in an off the grid cult like area, and an off the grid cult like area, and then she was abused by a series of men. And then there was that all led her to the DID and the CPTSD, and all of it was severely heightened by a particular by the violent death of her husband, and which she got to watch. So she's been through a
That's
lot.
fun. Sorry, sarcasm there. So no, I tell people, as I've been dubbed by my friends the horror to comedy pipeline. If it was a person, that is what my title is now. I don't know whether I like it or not, but with something like DID, I was just curious because given your, if I remember correctly, you're talking about kind of like racism and colonialism and all of this stuff. I was wondering if
Yep.
that was going to play into the DID because I feel like you could make a really strong. Then again, I'm not. I'm being a backseat writer when I say this, but I feel like if I was approaching something like that, there's a really cool way you could tie those in.
It
So
does a little bit. I mean,
okay,
she has significantly buried her goblin upbringing and tried very hard to become a more human person to the point where to the point where she doesn't use her goblin name and she's completely suppressed her accent. So
I see. That's actually really interesting. I'm gonna end up reading Goblin Smut, aren't I? Okay. So, since we're on the topic of psychology, what do you think of psychology representation and queer representation? Like, if I read your book, is there going to be a lesbian dommy mommy? There's not enough of those in the smut.
there is not. I'm sorry. I'm a straight guy, so I'm largely writing for what is called a romance for men audience. I wasn't intentionally doing it, but that's what it wound up being.
You write
So
what you
it's
know.
Yeah, exactly. And for me to write a bunch of queer characters would be just strange. It'd be awkward and it would feel like appropriation. And so, but yeah, I fully support queer authors and I agree that we need more queer representation. I just didn't have I don't have much to say about it personally because it's not my lived experience, and I don't have enough stories and anecdotes and truths from my queer friends to feel comfortable coring a book around it. So it's very peripheral. But as far as psychological representation, I feel like it's a good thing in general, but as long as it's not like in your face, because most readers, they don't care about they care about the characters. They care about whether the characters feel real, and that's what psychology does. Is it gets them to feel real. They don't need the diagnosis. They don't need to hear what's wrong with them. They just need to see it. They need to feel it, and that's what I try to do. None of my characters actually. She doesn't actually say the words DID or CPTSD in there, but the signs are there for people who are looking. So
I respect that. So I'm kind of on the opposite end, but then again, you're writing smut, I write horror. So like psychology is a huge part in any of my characters because when you're doing representation, or even when I'm doing a character who commits a tragedy, a poem
hmm
for sorry soul is a good example of this. When I'm talking about mental health being the leading cause, I have to do it in a way that's not um, dehumanizing mental health, but rather showing how I have this really strong idea of morality, especially now that I've really developed, where we kind of look at mental illness and you kind of this is what I was mentioning about the cluster B. You create these monsters, and then you're like, oh, you're the monster. Like you beat a kid enough, you beat them up, you like beat the shit out of them every day to the point that they got
Yep.
broken bones, and then one day you come home and your whole family's shot and dead, and you're like, oh, you're the monster. Well, wait, hold on, who made that kid into that? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I focus on with mental health. But there's
Yeah. You ever
also
read
those
Wuthering
things
Heights?
that what?
You ever read Wuthering Heights?
No, no, no.
Surprisingly psychologically deep and adept. Because there is a character who is like the who is well, actually there are a couple of characters who are deeply traumatized. They read as having CPTSD. They are chaotic. They are codependent. They are destructive to basically everyone around them, prone to violent mood swings. And you know why? Because they were horribly abused by an older brother figure that wound up with control of the family, and he just heaped absolutely savage abuse on them for their entire youths, and it broke them. It broke something in both of them, and it shows. And that is a kind of psychological sensitivity that's unlabeled, but it's there. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So
Yes, yes. Okay, so you're basically saying show it front first, but don't be like screaming at me. I have CPS, the funny C word.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
yes, I
No,
understand.
nobody cares about the labels. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
nobody really does. That's actually something that annoys me with queer representation lately, or anything. That's kind of what I was talking about. Like, if I have to scream at you endlessly as an indie author and be like,
mhm,
"Oh, I'm trans," that's what annoys me. Like with what you do with your advertising, I actually respect the hell out of because you're putting yourself to the side. I mean, you're going by a pen name and everything. Um,
yep.
Mask reveal when I'm joking. I'm not doing the sleep token thing, but you're putting the concept first, and I talked about this in a rant. I actually made it like a 10-minute video, but we have lost respect for the concept. When I write,
Yeah.
me as a trans woman, as a feral, unhinged, radical trans woman, who apparently is a domestic terrorist now by the U.S. government, like my fucking identity should not matter when I'm writing the book. A
hmm
black woman's identity, they shouldn't have to scream at you that they're black for you to buy the book. It's they that used to mean something. And I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people, when I say this, think I'm saying some sort of anti-diversity thing. It's rather pro-diversity, because what I'm saying is we shouldn't have to scream at you what we are for you to give a shit.
Yeah, the idea, yeah, the identity of the author, the idea of the whole idea of the author brand is at odds with the idea of just letting the work stand on its own, and it is onerous to have to become someone who sells the books and to have to create a persona. I mean, it's the way it's been for a long time. Look at Mark Twain, but it still sucks because it's like now you have to embody you are now speaking as someone who is trans feminine and like on the radical left. You're now speaking for the entire trans community when you write your stuff. Congratulations.
Kind of weirdly how that happened. Yeah, I don't know how I feel on that. And not that I see that as bad, but you're telling me, like, it's weird because the more popular I get, so one thing, I am probably the most anti-trans author you see, and I don't mean like an anti-trans, I mean like an anti-hero sense, because I don't tell people I'm trans. Like when I'm at events, my selling point usually, like, I'll actually, if I was to use the book in front of me again, this has been my greatest example today. I guess I'm just promoting the fuck out of this on this call. When I sell a book, I feel like most authors would be like, "Well, I am a trans femme author, and I wrote this psychological horror novel." I usually say this: remember the line. I have a practice line I use. Usually my work is driven by some sort of theme, some sort of question, some sort of critique. And this book is a critique of classism. It is, the main character is the antagonist. He's a trillionaire billionaire. He's basically this rich guy who's been disconnected from society, who, rather, albeit through luxury, and he is now not really understanding that other humans are humans, and he's basically an abhorrent human being, and this is a critique of classism and elitism and an understanding of how someone can become this. So that, how I did my pitch, I didn't tell you anything about me, because I shouldn't matter. It's not about me. So I think that if I've even found with that approach, because I used to go for the trope approach, I sell a lot more books.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that working, especially in a face-to-face. That's like, you're basically almost quoting the blurb. You are telling them what the book is about, and you're laying out the central message, and the message is the appeal. It sounds like, particularly with your work.
That is the appeal. So that's what I want to be the appeal. I mean, there are different appeals. So like the Dot Letters has a trans mask as the main character. I purposely chose a trans mask for a reason, but there are sub themes I don't talk about too. But even with something like that, it's technically an LGBTQ book, but I don't want the identity of the characters to matter. I am writing fiction that is fables. I am writing fiction based off of nonfiction. And that's the way I approach it. And I feel like that's kind of been lost a little bit. And I also feel like with our modern readers, I think this is why I was drawn to your work too, is that we are in this time of like dishonesty with our work. So like when I saw your work, you know, you weren't hiding shit. You're like, yep, Goblin smut, here's the themes, you know. Or even when I was asking you about character themes that I can't reveal obviously on the stream, or like plot themes, you know, you're not hitting me like other authors will be like, yeah, my book has a saucy scene with a goblin dommy mommy, you know. You're hitting me with like, so yeah, there's speciesism, there's like this portal thing, you know, and I respect the hell out of that, you know. You're being very honest with your work. I think that we've lost the point of writing, because
you asked about the world building, man. I could have told you about the sex scenes if you wanted, but that wasn't what it meant.
I mean, if you want to, you can, but that's not really going to help with the soundtrack, which feels like we're never going to get to it right now. I mean, I can, you know what I should do? If you get enough sales, or if I get enough sales, or even both, I will do Careless Whisper as a fantasy song. I will do it. I will full on do it. That is a promise. If you can sell a bunch of books, and people actually care about like both works, not care, but like buy both works, I will do Careless Whisper as a like anime fantasy song. I think that'd be funny as fuck. But
that would be pretty funny.
But,
just use that definitely would be a brand expansion for you too.
Tonight the Goblin speaks. Anyways, but no, I feel like we don't approach it from how we should. Like, I tell people, when you are, because I have a lot of friends, like every time I make friends, I become the writing instructor for some fucking reason. I know why, I don't mind, but no, it happens in every friendship. I just joined an LGBTQ youth server near me in Buffalo, and fucking everyone, now that they know I'm like an author, musician, and artist, they'll be like, oh, hey, do you know how to do this? And don't get me wrong, I love helping them, but it's like, I'm not a professional. I'm a 19-year-old that just wrote a graphic murder scene. I'm not Stephen King. I'm probably just masking my trauma and pretending that's writing. Yeah, that's kind of my, oh, there's people in the chat now. I'm looking up. Okay, I have one. Someone's asking me, okay, why did you write a book about shooting up a school? All right, let's get into this. Fuck it, someone's asking. All right, so remember how I was telling you, Sinclair, about how important psychology is to topics?
Yes.
The book they're talking about right now is A Poem for a Sorry Soul. Hopefully they're still here. A Poem for a Sorry Soul served a very important purpose, and the reason why it was about that is because I feel with that topic, we do not talk about the correct thing with that topic. We always talk about gun control. I think if you walk into that topic with gun control, you should shut the fuck up and get out of the topic. You have no right to be talking there. So when I wrote the book, the main focus was, yes, a school shooting, but it wasn't really about the school shooting. Most books and most movies take place in that time. That happens way at the end of the novel, like, and at the end. You see everything after and before. Because what I was trying to do with that novel was, instead of present you some sort of like hippie gun control or like conservative freak gun control thing, I was trying to present the real psychological reality of what happens with someone doing that. So we don't talk about that enough. We don't talk about the abuse or trauma. So that's why I even talk to you now about concepts, about all of that stuff. That's why it's important to me, because when I talk about a subject like that, we need to understand the root of the issue instead of dancing around the bush and pretending that we're hitting it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, it's a bold take. It's especially because there's some diversity in how that particular in how you get a spree killer. There's always a certain amount of isolation, but it's so bizarre because some of them, like one of the worst ones in history, Kehoe had like a family. He had a whole family. He had a lot to live for, and he went and blew up a school, shot every kid that ran out of, and started shooting the kids that ran out of the school. It was and then yeah, but yeah, it's a bold that's a bold move. I mean, that I support it, and I think you're absolutely right that it goes deeper than gun control, because when someone has that kind of problem, when they have that kind of compulsion, they're going to find another way to do it. The root cause isn't going to get fixed just because you take away the most convenient way to kill somebody. It's it might make it
Yes.
harder for them to actually pull it off, but it's not going to go away. They'll find that, like, you take away all the guns, and what does Britain have? A giant knife problem. So it's
In American politics, I see this a lot too. Will encounter a problem like they do this with energy drinks now and e-bikes. You're like, oh, the youth are doing this. They're at danger. Like, no, you downgraded the education system to be like a Timu bootleg, and you wonder why these kids are doing stupid fucking decisions. You educate a kid to be stupid, they're going to be stupid. That is what's going to happen. Shit in, shit out, as George Carlin says. So when I wrote that novel, funny enough, that's my first manuscript of last year. I wrote 10 last year. That was my first one, and it has a sequel talking about the aftermath of the tragedy. When I handled that subject, which I think I did rather well for 17-year-old me, and I've looked at it a little bit here and there, the very important subject here was not only talking about how mental health leads to someone committing a mass tragedy, but how do we talk about how do we do that in a way that doesn't necessarily dehumanize a person? Which is a really, I'm not going to lie, writing it, I remember, and also reading the passages make me very uncomfortable. So I want to also say something as a horror writer, with my work being about such controversial shit. I don't exactly feel comfortable writing it either, but that's the point. I need to feel uncomfortable writing it. I cannot write something that motivates you to change, that motivates you to make this change, if I'm feeling comfortable with it. First of all, I need to get a mental health evaluation, and second of all, I can't present that well. I need to be uncomfortable. So with that book especially, there's a lot of abuse in it. There's a lot of abuse. Like, this kid goes through so much shit. There's a suicide attempt. Some of the passages are in italics because he's basically in a psychotic episode. Like, this book, he went through hell and back, and you see all of this until the end when he actually does the incident, as it's called. That's why I made it is it non-Euclidean it's called? I think it's
nonlinear.
non-linear. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. That's why
Yeah,
I did that,
non
because
non-Euclidean would be different.
I was trying to think of the term, but that's
Got it.
why I did that. So I think, like, I hate when people ask me, why did you write a book about murder? Why did you write a book about shooting up a school? Why did you write a romance with a trans mask? Like, yeah, I did do that, but there's a reason why. If you're gonna be here and be ignorant about it, you've completely lost the fucking reason why. You know? And I would say you could say the same thing for what you write. Now everybody's left chat when I've started pushing back against this. That's how it goes.
Oh well. Hey, at least they know what you wrote about.
Here's the thing. I don't have enough fucking time in this world for people to join my chat, be ignorant, ask a question, and then leave when they don't want the full explanation. Ask a question, but understand I'm going to give you the full explanation. So, anyways, Goblin Smut, let's continue with your topic here. That's pretty interesting. I really don't know how else to feel about it, but no, it's really like that's also what I was talking about, worshiping convenience and comfortability. But with your colonial themes in your book, with the whole goblin theme and all of that, I guess if we're gonna go with uncomfortable topics now, my question for you is, where was your inspiration? Did you have a nation or time period for inspiration when writing this book?
Not at first. It comes from like a kind of a lifetime of just watching it and from various perspectives and from a historical perspective of what has happened to displaced and to displaced peoples over the course of the entirety of human history. And I know I because I've like you, I've studied a lot of history. I've studied a lot of psychology, and that includes history and anthropology, and just the way that we dehumanize other people, and the way that we treat other people like they are lesser and worse, and the way that we have done that historically, and how much worse and more virulent it was just like 2 centuries back. It was just taken as writ that that they weren't even really people in the same way that we're people, and by massive chunks of the population, like the American South, and that's and I kind of tapped into that just sense of like these are trash, and that is something that's common in media as goblins are trash mobs. They're something that first level adventurers go out and kill because they're menacing villages, and that's how the popular perception of them works. And I wound up playing with that and being like, yeah, but what if they're just people, and what if most of the way that people that we the way we see them is just that lensing of dehumanization, and they think and feel the same way that we do. They just have a different, more violent culture. And if you take that culture away and you give them an education, then all the nasty stuff just kind of goes away. And that's sort of how I wound up with it. And I also grappled with that sense of like, okay, what does it mean to be a human in a human dominated world that is attracted to these people, that actually loves them and cherishes them? And that brought me over to like the sex tourism and the other gross ways in which privileged cultures interact with not with non-privileged cultures. With like I don't know if you know about how much you know about that, but there's an entire industry in like Thailand and and the the indies where like white guys will go down there and visit brothels, and they they think nothing of it because they're not like us. They're less than people, and then and just head back home to their families. And so I tapped into that whole of all of that kind of went into the mix when I started writing it, and that's where I wound up was that with goblins as just this extremely vilified minority. Um, and they're not the only like Fey race, the only D&D race that is in this world that came through, but they were the one that was the most hated because for several reasons. Because there were more of them, because they showed up in larger numbers, because they're smaller and physically weaker, because they're primarily nocturnal, which makes them creepier, and yeah, and I built an entire almost mythology of loathing and racism over them. And
That's not a sentence I thought I was going to hear today. Okay, continue. I shouldn't laugh about that. Jesus, that's
that's
terrible.
fair. I
Like
mean,
there
when you
no
think
it's kind of bad when you laugh at stuff like that. Like for someone with me who has such an unhinged sense of humor, and who laughs at uncomfortable shit, I have to remember that you really shouldn't be laughing, but you just don't have another response. Anyways,
Nah, it's
continue.
fine. I've chuckled at funerals. So yeah, it's so yes, it's a I built a mythology of racism around them, just as there are mythologies of racism that are embraced by a lot of people even today. And it's I don't didn't use any specific groups because I didn't want to culturally appropriate and I didn't want to like make and I didn't want to like draw a hardline equivalence between someone's actual experience and that of a fictional goblin, because that's pretty low for me to be doing. And so yeah, it's that's about where it came from. It's a whole lot of different influences and chunks of information that I've absorbed over the years, and just a bunch of gross, nasty shit about human nature that I then lensed through my love of fantasy and my understanding of like just how we treat each other and how we historically have treated each other when we don't see each other as people, which I mean, you can see that happening in the world today in certain places,
I'm literally
Palestine.
trans.
Um,
Oh,
but
that too. Yeah.
yeah, okay, yes. Also, but like every conservative state right now, but
No, it's so
Palestine's a little
bad,
further
dude.
along.
If you walk around and you're like, "Oh, I'm trans," how many people will then start asking about your autonomy? You know, like,
Yeah,
dude, that's not your business. Who? Why do you
it's not.
care? So
And then there were the ones that ask about your anatomy, and that's not their business
that's what I
either.
meant. Yeah, sorry, that was the wrong word, but no,
Okay.
literally, they'll be like, "What's in your pants?" I haven't tried this yet, and don't
What's in
do
your
this.
pants? Rage. But
That's definitely one. I really don't want to do this yet. But I've really been tempted. Like I had it happen one time in public, and I just wanted to dead ass look at them, and in the exact tone I'm going to say this, a gun. Totally, totally don't do that. But I'm not gonna lie. I have found that if you respond to someone with chaos and unhingedness, they cannot reply. How many chasers I have gotten out of my DMs by being so unhinged they can't keep up with me. It's insane. It's genuinely I might do like a self-help class on that. How to be unhinged so people don't bother you.
it's it's a good defense mechanism, honestly. If you just seem like you're too weird and unapproachable, people aren't going to bother. People will back off. Aside from the right people, but
I mean,
yeah.
I'm literally so one thing I love too is when I'm biking. I haven't played other music yet, but I'll play like deathcore, metalcore, Parkway Drive, like Killing with a Smile. I've been playing, so I look like a full scale biker. Like if you've seen the pictures, I'll post here and there of me in my biking outfit, which I call
Hmm.
an outfit at this point because I don't really need to wear it anymore, but I still do for fun. Um, I literally look like I'm gonna fuck your shit up if you mess with me, and I kind of love it. I kind of love it because I'm not necessarily that type, nor am I necessarily not that type, but it kind of creates this wall where I can choose when I want to interact with people. I got told that was toxic once by someone. I still don't understand that, but I can kind of build up a wall and be like, I'll interact with you whenever the fuck I feel like. So it's
It
really
depends
it's
whether,
really
or it's yeah, it depends whether it's like whether it's a wall or whether it's a boundary. If it's just a wall that's up reflexively, that's not great. If it's a boundary that you have because like you have had a lot of people push against you, and you're like, I'm going to let you in when I feel like letting you in. The big difference is that you're able to still let people in. And I'm probably telling you what you know. It's something you already know. You know,
yeah,
you've studied
yeah.
psychology.
the
So,
the yeah the wall analogy is kind of like if you have this tower, like this list, like because I remember I explained it to someone, like the way I kind of treat a lot of like friendships if they're not really close yet, is that it's kind of like a moat, and you got the bridge,
mhm.
and like they might be standing out there unless it's really important. They say something and they're like, oh, blah 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 blah, and I'm not in a way where I can contact them yet, or I don't want to yet. I will choose when to put that gate down. It's not me being rude. Most of the time, it's out of respect. When someone's like, "Oh, hey, I wanted to tell you I did this." If I was on this interview right now, and someone messaged me that. Like, I see all the notifications. It doesn't mean like I see every notification I get. If I don't respond, it's because I don't have the time to give you the proper respect you deserve with that. So yeah, God, there's been so many good questions here. We've been live for like 2 hours now. I haven't begun even trying to make music. Um, but hey, this is the kind of conversation I live for. With writing, what do you have? So, I don't like labels, but I use a lot of labels. So perhaps I'm a hypocrite on that one. But the reason I use a lot of labels is because I don't necessarily restrict myself to them. It doesn't mean I am that label, but it's better for fitting it. But do you have a certain kind of writing you prescribe to? Like I prescribe the brutalism as a form of writing, which isn't my term. I think someone else used it to describe someone author's work, but that's kind of how I describe my work. Do you have, like, if you had a philosophy with your writing? I'm kind of scared to ask this. What would that philosophy be named?
I don't, man. I'm basically a pop author, if anything. I write what I feel like I should write. I follow my muse in that classic dorky way, which means that there's an eclectic sensibility. I obviously we go into some darker. I go into some dark shit. Obviously, there's smut. It's very adult, and
I
I
mean, yeah,
also have
smut isn't meant for kids. It's probably
no,
that's not a thing we
exactly,
should
yeah.
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't think
no,
that's
no, it's not. It's not. It's keep it. Yes, this is an 18 plus conversation, and it's an 18. And I write 18 plus books, and so do you, frankly. Um,
Yeah, no, yeah, age is still weird. Um, I say 15 and above, and the reason why is because I understand, like, I was fucking 10 years old and watching, like, Resident Evil 2 when the new ones were coming out. So, like, I was watching. No, so, like, it's weird being in that middle ground because when I have to figure out the age for my books, my typical rule is 15 and above. 15 and below doesn't mean I won't sell it, but I need consent of the parent.
all right, fair enough.
So yeah, because you don't know, because I think a lot of people approach AIDS and think age. The smut talk's getting to me. Age, and they think that oh well, a 13-year-old can't handle that topic. Like, no, it depends on the parent. I don't believe in age censorship to a degree. Smut's different, but with certain writing, I don't agree with the whole censorship idea. You're a parent. Your job is to be a parent. Instead of attacking the author, control your little crotch gremlin that's going around Walmart ruining it up. You know? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I only have so much respect for that debate because most of the people I've talked to who, like, believe in this huge, like, age censorship, blah, 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 are doing the exact, like, they shove fucking Cocomelon in front of their kid's face and post online about how great of a parent they are. Like, you're not him, okay? So it's a real annoying thing. So with my writing, like, recently, yeah, I don't feel comfortable selling to anyone under 18 anymore. With, like, the Coldest Star, or even with Flesh Prison, I don't feel comfortable with that. But with most of my writing, 15 above is the general rule. But I usually, like,
Fair
if the
enough.
parent's present, I will let them know what it's about. But online, I don't apply that rule. I'm sorry. There's a description. I tell you what it deals with. My book covers usually tell you what it deals with. So, like, my book covers aren't very professional. I do them myself, and I usually try to bring out what the topic is or what's going to be in there. So, if you're really not smart enough to read the description, and I mean that with full disrespect. I'm not trying to be respectful here. If you as a parent are going online looking at a book like The Coldest Star that has a fucking revolver and bullets around the page and literally talks about a billionaire, a trillionaire, and all of that, and you could even read the preview from the ebook and you don't realize that's not appropriate for kids or the fact that it has a trigger warning, then that's on you. Honestly, at that point, I have given you all the warnings I can. If you're stupid enough to do it, stupid people are stupid people. I can't control you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the way
that's
I
fair.
look at it. And yeah, no, it's actually there is a talk to be had about what kids can access on the internet. But every time we get in that conversation, it always becomes anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, anti. So we're just not ready for that conversation yet, which kind of sucks because some of the stuff I was accessing at 12 years old, I should have not had access to. But we don't
Yeah.
handle that topic from any perspective that's actually respectable in my eyes. So yeah, my little rant about age stuff because I don't think people realize. Now, if I was to write smut, that's absolutely 18 above. No questions about that.
Right.
So
Um,
yeah, it really depends.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. It's a sliding scale, and America has always been a lot more tolerant of letting children close to violence than it has to sex. because
again,
good
again,
old
again,
Puritanism.
even I did listen to the explanation. Interesting perspective. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you didn't find me rude. I actually appreciate you being respectful about that. There's a lot of people who will ask that question and then be really ignorant about it. User PZ. So that's why I kind of handled it a little abrasively. So I apologize for that. Anyways, continuing on our topic. Sorry about that. Um, when we get into age conversations, it's very interesting because I'm going to use Animal Farm. If you know that shitty dog shit movie they're pumping out now, Animal Farm, when it originally came out, which was the true to the book, dictator, horse gets shipped off, like all this fucked up shit that happens in the novel for good
Hmm.
reason. It's a huge analogy. It was meant for kids, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think we've replaced parenting with the idea of what we do with drug addicts, where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna ban you from that. Well, no, that doesn't work. You could almost tie that into what I was talking about with a poem for a sorry soul. You need people to actually understand. You can take away something, but that doesn't solve the problem. So with kids and my books too, certain books obviously 18 plus, I'm not letting them read that. I just don't feel comfortable with that personally. That's not if a parent buys it online for their kid, that's their thing, and they need to understand the consequences or pros of doing that either way. But again, understand what your kid is able to. Explain it in a way they can understand. That's the way I look at it, and I don't feel like I owe anyone any shit for content warnings or anything like that. I usually do that when I feel it's important enough. Like a poem for a sorry soul doesn't have a content warning because I usually tell people if you read the fucking description and look at the cover of the book, it pretty much tells you where it's going. So just use a sliver of common sense. I cannot sit here and coddle 8 billion people, let alone 354 million fucking people. If you're gonna be dumb, I don't care. That is on you. I do not have enough space for you. So I think more people need to have that attitude.
All right, fair.
And that's
I
also kind of why I respect work like yours. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, my book does come with content and trigger warnings, just because like someone could pick it up thinking it's going to be a fun light read, and then be like, oh
yeah.
shit.
Well,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Well, it also depends too, because your method for like covers, and I don't know what your blurb is necessarily, might be a little different. To where
yeah.
like if you read a blurb like mine, and it always tells you what the theme is, it will have the trigger warning on there if I feel. I do want to start putting trigger warnings on my stuff, given that I'm noticing my writing becoming a lot more darker, which I'm really enjoying where it's going, but it's getting a lot more heavy, which
Hmm.
is allowing me to tackle certain topics. So I will be using those more. But then
Right.
again, it's also like I give you what the content is. Like there's a whole section on my Barnes and Noble of every description that says this book has this theme and this question that basically tells you where we're going with it. So that's why I don't feel overly obligated. Just read the description, dude. Read. That's why you're buying the book. Read it.
Yeah, fair enough. It
It
doesn't
all
make a lot of sense to
depends.
me
It
that yeah,
it all depends. I mean, again,
yeah.
people could look at your cover and think they're like it's obviously not because they think it's like a young adult, anime inspired thing, and don't realize that it's basically just straight up hentai with colonial themes. So jokingly, but not jokingly, just out of pure curiosity, if you decide to make this a series or write more, are you going? Because I feel like the next move, if you're going to talk about colonialism and racism and all of that, are we going to get a class war romance where like the orcs are fighting against the oligarchs and they're like trying to
I hadn't considered that one yet. The next one is actually about an orc mafia prince. So which kind of explores
You can
the
go class war with that. Yeah, I'll take that.
I I could, but it's more about like just it's more about the tradition. It's more about the war of the tradition and the trying and the struggles of integration and how. Well, I mean, the orcs are a mafia for the same reason that the Italians were a mafia. It's because there was no system of actual justice and protection for this immigrant population, so they had to band together and stick with and create one out of their own traditions
Which is what the original
that
gangs were for.
operated outside of the law. What's that?
Which is what the original gangs were for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even if you go back to Rome, that's what the gangs were for. The gangs were the law, and
We can't
that's
we
it.
can't keep mentioning Rome. We're gonna get the Hasman Hotel fans in here. I'm joking. I have no problem with Hasman Hotel fans usually. Continue.
So yeah, that one's more about it's more about that, and it's a murder mystery. So it's and it has a lot of family stuff in there, as every mafia book must,
Yeah.
because it's about because the main character is the golden boy, and he's a fail, and his brother's an absolute failure. But yeah, it's actually a spin-off of Goblin Stepsister Obsession. My wife was like, "This character's a this one character. Why you should write a book about him? He's awesome." And then I was like, "How do I write a book that could act? What could possibly be a sufficient challenge for a 6'10" orc mafia prince with that fights like a world-class MMA?"
I mean, given that you
Yeah,
understand psychology, there's so many routes you could go with that. So
yeah.
why
I
not
I,
just
I found
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
but what kind of but the real problem is like what's a readable one of those? What's a fun challenge for someone like that? And I found
True, because
one.
you're not going the direction I'm going. Okay, fair enough.
No, I'm not trying to I'm not a brutalist, I'm not a miserabilist. I want my audience to have fun. So
I'm not a
it's
miserabilist. I'm a brutalist. Okay. I don't.
there's a they're okay, well
There's a crossover, but I'm not a
there is
miserabilist.
fair
I'm
enough.
I'm not Edgar Allan Poe here. I prefer them unrelated and older. You can there. So that's actually a good example of something I was talking about earlier, with the comedy, the horror pipeline. I think people also don't understand what dark humor. I've had to explain this to people because there's like some of my 18-year-old friends or some 17-year-old friends who are around them. They'll make these really offensive jokes, and I say that the cross line between offensive and dark humor is how you phrase it and what you're either making fun of or pointing at.
And the audience.
Yes, yeah, you obviously don't want to be going to a psych ward making certain jokes. Definitely didn't learn that from experience. But anyways, so yeah, no, you got to be careful with that. That's also something I've kind of learned with horror writing, where with brutalism too, how you can kind of turn it on and off. Like you can take there. I'm not reading it out loud, but I think you commented on this. Someone who was talking about certain words they use in erotica, and how they said like cheesy something. You know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just commented on that. So I
That's
quoted it
cool.
and I did a brutalist take on it. I'll actually send it to you. Why not? Why not? Just see what you think. But that's kind of like if you were to take something like they said, that would be a more pop approach. What I did was more brutalist, which is where you're extending it. I love brutalism. I love brutalism because I'm basically a lot of writing these days. I heard someone critique it. They say that they feel insecure. Like writing feels insecure now where I have to describe you everything. Brutalism kind of doesn't say fuck the reader, but it basically just says I'm going to write how I write. If you have to read it multiple times, there's no shame, but I am not here to cater to you. So it really relies on a lot of poeticism, which I really like, as
Fair
someone
enough.
like me who's a wannabe philosopher and 19 years old. I don't know if I'm
Okay,
wannabe, but anyways.
now you're
um,
getting there.
I you know, how many people are telling me I need to start doing lecture halls? I'm kind of wondering if I've crossed the threshold. I had the fucking mayor of Lockport look me in the eyes and say, I want to get you lecture halls eventually. That's from a fucking politician, dude. That's from a fucking politician. I was 18 years
Politicians say a
old.
lot of stuff.
Yes, I was sleep deprived. And he's not the only one. How many people have fucking told me that, dude? And I'm kind of sitting here, like, I try to be humble. My name has nothing, like, yeah, Narcissi and Natal. The origin of the name comes from that fable, but I twist it for a different reason. It has nothing to do with narcissism. In fact, it's against it, the reason why I use it. It's kind of a litmus test of a name. Like, I have to sit here and try to be humble, but then I have experiences like that, and it's like, holy fuck, you know?
Fair enough.
Like, you don't want to be the dick, but at some point, you kind of want to look everyone in the room and be like, fuck you, I've published 19 books. What have you done with your life? That's what people got to understand. I have a very simple philosophy. I'm respectful with everyone. Don't start talking about what I don't do. Don't start, if you don't know me, don't critique me negatively. And don't critique me positively for that matter. If you don't know me, don't talk on me. Don't say my name in vain. Okay. You want to talk, you want to call me something, I'm going to be that for you because you don't actually know who I am and I don't give a shit to explain to you, you know. As long as I got my goblin smut at the end of the day, I think I'm doing pretty good.
uh, yeah. All right, fair enough. That's a bold take. I'm not sure I understood the part about being the something with the being whatever someone calls you, but yeah, you have earned a certain measure of pride and security in your own accomplishments because you've been knocking it out. Um, I should let you know that I kind of gotta go in the not
Sorry.
too distant future.
Okay. Well, this did not turn out the way I thought this would. This entire live stream, but it has been a joy. I guess we'll do a quick overview because we kind of conversationalized, but it was great conversation. Do you agree?
Yeah, it was a good talk.
Okay, cool. So I'll ask you two more things. Soundtrack wise, how I'm gonna approach this. So typically with the Galoopian, which is my soundtrack project, 5 minutes is the
Okay.
minimum. Depending if the page number is over 300, then it's 10 minutes. Um,
Okay.
and typically with soundtracks, it is ambience. We're kind of looking for something in the background.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So what is the projected page number? How many pages?
Um, after I trim it down, I think we're gonna see get a right around 400, a little
400. So
under.
that's gonna be 10 minutes. And if you're looking, you know what my music sounds like. You know what I sent you. You're looking for something kind of fantasy inspired? Yes.
Yes,
So
fantasy inspired, but it can have modern notes because it's setting up a modern city. So
I mean, I'll probably have some fun with it and creative liberties, knowing me, because that's kind of how I
yeah,
approach projects. I mean, I just did
I
a
mean,
poem for five, which none of my fans know about yet. So if you look on Elastic Sage on Bandcamp, you can always get my music early and take a peek at what's coming out. Anyways, so yeah. So the other thing too, so obviously you have some themes in your book.
mhm.
In the most synopsis way possible, if we're going to music wise, in my head, I'm understanding you're gonna want some sultry, you might want some darker, and you might want some epic, and maybe some calm parts, right?
Yeah, definitely. But you can almost skip the epic. It's pretty small scale. It's a very intimate story. But yeah, you definitely conflict and certainly some sultriness because there's plenty of
It's
that.
smut. So let's.
It is,
We
yeah.
can't keep forgetting that. No. Okay. So obviously that. Are you? If we're going genre, I'm probably thinking orchestral. I mean, if I do fantasy without it, you know. As I
Yeah.
did with the theme song of which I shared with you, I kind of did a little because I remember some of the plot points that I'm not going to talk too much about addiction of a certain thing. You care if I combine synths in there that kind of get that in there?
You can put that in there, yeah.
Okay, I want. Well, it's your soundtrack. Like I don't want you. So I'm just thinking with the theme you're talking about with a soundtrack, it needs to tell you what the book's about musically. It needs to
Right,
fit what it's
yeah.
talking about. So like a
It
poem
needs
for a
to
sorry soul sounds very not human in a lot of parts. My dog is barking. That sucks. She's gonna wait. So, she's probably barking at nothing outside. She does that all the time. So obviously some synths in there. How much genre bending are you allowing? How much genre bending can I get away with?
plenty. Oh, I
Plenty.
mean, yes, yes.
You're gonna
As long as
okay.
you don't break it.
I mean, you've heard my music. You know how much I love the genre bend, so I want to make sure that's comfortable with you. Okay.
It's
Cool.
free, man. You're doing this for free. I'm okay.
Okay. Well, no, I want to make sure because you're gonna have to put your name at this at the end of the day. I want to make sure this is something you approve of. You know.
Fair enough.
Like I
I no,
can't.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. So like, as long as you're gonna let me have at least some creative liberty, I'm pretty happy. But we gotta be. I gotta be conscientious of what we're talking about here. So okay. Now character themes again. We're not. I'm not against that. I just want to wait till the future. I'm kind of thinking if you sell some books like a good amount, I sell some CDs or at least get some streams. Then I'll do character themes and go out with it. The other question I have to ask is, do we have a proposed deadline or like out like release date in your head?
Proposed the I was planning on trying to get it out Q1 this year, but no. So right now I'm thinking like midsummer, early fall
This year?
this year. Yeah.
Okay, so you know the theme song. I don't want to tell them too much about it. Can I? Would you want me to release as like a preliminary thing? It's kind of like promo, you know?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah. Not too far in advance, but yes.
Yes. Okay. We'll talk about that more privately. And
Okay.
one last thing, where can we find you, dude? Can we support you anyway?
You can find me on Threads. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Tumblr, and
Tumblr. I'm following
occasionally
you on
on
Tumblr.
Reddit.
I just got that. Okay, cool. I just got it. Someone bullied me into getting it. I'm not really active on there too much. I mostly just post, but which will probably screw me
that's
over. But yeah,
that's fair. I mean, I'm not super active on there. Threads is my primary,
Threads is
I
awesome, dude. You can have a conversation about philosophy, and then you like turn around and you've got some like queer woman posting the most freaky shit. Like, that's the antithesis of the internet for me. Like, you're kidding me. I can go from fucking Marx dialectical literature to hearing about a queer woman talk about her butch lesbian girlfriend. Like, that is amazing to me. I don't know what the impact on society is quite yet. We're gonna have to look at the next like 100 years for that one. But to me, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I concur. It's nice. It has a very Web 1.0 feel to it, honestly, where it's just like these are just some people posting almost all text things that are just interesting things that you can look at, and that is how the
yep.
internet used to be before it was all like AV
Commercialized,
slop. So
murdered. Fucking TikTok came on the scene. Fucking we Gen Zers fucked up and supported terrible people on every step of the way. This is my chance to be a little blunt. Anyways, so I hope you had fun talking to me. It's been a great chat. I'll be working on some music in a little bit. I'll ask people in chat, but you're free to go. But this was a lovely conversation. Thank you.
you're welcome. I had fun as well,
All right.
and I look forward to hearing the finished product when or I guess are you doing drafts of it or are you just going to do one big thing?
I'll probably. So I'm thinking after this, I'm gonna give the people in the audience to one other person, because it's two people. I'm gonna give them the choice if they want me to continue the stream, and I'll start working on the music. But I'll probably do like the first song as a draft, and I'll probably
Okay,
send them as I go. Like, here's the first song. What do you think? Um,
okay,
so yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah. I mean, that's okay. With me at least. So, and I would hope that's
I know you
acceptable.
got a ton of other projects, so I'm like I'm not like married to the idea of like, okay, this is a collab. I like this song, but could you make it a little more blah blah blah?
I mean,
But
totally go
but
for it,
yeah,
but I'm pretty fast when I work. I just need to. The issue was is that I hit you at a time, like I DM'd you when I was on two tours. I had the poem for five. I had two soundtracks I wanted to make, but that's all done. So
hmm
now I can kind of lump yours in with the future stuff. The only other stuff is right now the hard part with soundtracks. I kind of did all the ones that I wanted to do. So now I'm just trying to
okay,
find games and have time to watch them to understand what I'm making. You know,
all right,
so
fair enough.
that's the hard part with my music and my writing. Fucking Flesh Prison won't write itself anymore. I'm joking, but you have a good one. This was a
You too.
lovely conversation. You have a great day, and tell some cute goblin girls I said hi.
Will do.
Yes.
All right. Or nice talking, Ian. Talk to you, and bye for now.
Bye for now. Adios. All right, my one person in chat. Hello, hi. That was a long conversation. I am tired from that conversation. I did not expect that to take so long. All right, how are you doing? Do you want me to stay? I'll produce a little music for a little bit. Do you want to stay? Do you want me to stay on stream or you want me to go? It's up to you completely. Either way, I'm going to start working on it, but I also would like to get up, get some water, all that fun stuff. But you wanna stay here, we're all good. I also don't know who you are, unfortunately. Can I see the audience? That'd be cool if it showed you what the audience is. I have to give it a second. Hold on. I think there's always latency too. That's the thing I'm not used to, is latency. All right. I'm not hearing anything. Think I'm gonna go. Thank you for your time. You have a good one. I forgot that I wasn't streaming on my phone. Fuck. Adios.